First, let's look at how an inexpensive charcoal smoker works. You got a vent on the bottom, sometimes, depending on the smoker. Some don't even have that. The charcoal is going to be just above that. You're going to put your wood chips or wood chunks on top. Above that is a water pan. Some people like to put sand in there as a diffuser, or a heat sink, I should say. Above that, you're going to have a tray for meat, and you're going to have another tray for meat. You're going to have a vent on top to control airflow and a temperature gauge. Generally, especially the inexpensive ones, are going to leak quite a bit around the bottom. You're going to have lots of air gaps. The Weber ones are a lot better. They seal a lot better, but you're talking over $400 price tag, especially right now for like the 18-inch. So I've developed a way that's a lot less expensive, that you can do the same thing with the same principles. Let's take a look at that now. I have two grills that I like to use for smoking. The 18-inch Weber kettle and the 14-inch Smokey Joe Premium. The reason I chose the Premium over the standard Smokey Joe, first is because the handle, so you can lock it in and carry it as one piece, but also it has two side vents, one on either side, instead of a bottom vent, so you have better control over airflow depending on where the burn is at the charcoal at the moment. So why don't I give you a quick rundown, and we'll unpack this, and then after that we'll get to smoking. First, pop the lid loose. The only modification that I made, specifically, was installing a gauge. You can get them for about $9–10 on Amazon. You have to drill a small hole in the lid to install it, and it's just a wing nut on the back. You want to get one with a long probe so that it reaches down to the grill surface and gives you an accurate temperature. You've got your grill, obviously, where you're going to set the meat on. Below that, instead of the water pan, if you remember the original diagram, I use a pie pan. Fairly short one, but obvious. So I'm going to put my water in here, so I've got the water as a heat sink. Below that, I found a pizza pan that fits inside here with just a minor gap around the outer edge. And I even put a couple extra holes in there just for airflow, but you don't want direct heat on the meat, you want diffused heat. So this sets on top of a loaf pan. The reason I have the loaf pan in there is so that I can pack my charcoal and wood around it and then put the diffuser, the pizza pan, on top, the water, and such. So let me show you how this all goes together. Let's get started. So step one, this is a charcoal chimney. This one particular one is made by Weber. There's a small and a large. I use the small most of the time. There's a dividing grate in the center. You put the charcoal in the top, and then you can put some paper in the bottom. I would much prefer using this over lighter fluid, otherwise your food's going to end up tasting like lighter fluid. So essentially you're just going to light it at the bottom, and then you're going to give it about 15 to 20 minutes. The paper will burn up, and then it will start the chimney effect, and it will get the charcoal going. Like I said, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to get some good red coals, and then we'll be ready to add those to the grill. While we are waiting for the charcoal chimney to get going, I'm going to add some water to my diffuser pan, and I'm going to put the chunks or chips of wood in there. Some people prefer chips, some prefer chunks. I have access to some cherry and apple trees, so I just cut chunks off of those, dry chunks of course. And you want them to be a little bit wet when you get started, because that's going to help create the smoke. As you can see, we're starting to get some hot coals. I've taken the wood chunks from the water, put them in the grill. I'm going to add the charcoal, put the pan on top, put the water pan in, and the grate, and let everything get up to temperature, and then we'll add some food. So today I've got some venison steaks, and I've also got some venison steaks that I have soaked in a cider for the past 24 hours. And as you can see, I've also put a probe in one of them because you want to keep an eye on the temperature of the meat as much as you want to keep an eye on the temperature of the grill itself. So it looks like the grill's coming up to temp here, so I'm going to toss these in and get them going. You can already see the smoke rolling off. This is going to look delicious. Let's get the lid on. We'll keep an eye on it and check in here in just a little bit. Alright, checking back in about 20 minutes later. The steaks themselves are up to about 104. The gauge is at about 175. Some people smoke with water, some people smoke without. I prefer to smoke with water, just my personal preference. With water I found about an hour per pound, without water about 2 hours per pound. I smoke everything from steaks, burgers, roasts. Last Thanksgiving I did 2 4-pound roasts, 8 pounds of meat, turned out amazing, and fed 12 people. So I want to talk real quick about smoking this way versus buying, say, a Weber smoker. As for charcoal smokers, the 18-inch smoker at Home Depot right now is about $420. I picked up the Weber Smokey Joe Premium used and like new condition on Facebook Marketplace for about $15. I spent about $2 on the pizza pan at Goodwill. I think I spent $1 or $2 on the loaf pan that I flipped upside down. The pie pan about the same. And then realistically at that point, it's just charcoal and wood. Seemed a lot less expensive, so I'm out 20-25 bucks. And I can smoke, and as you can see, I fit a whole lot of meat in that little smoker, or little grill. And the 18-inch, I can fit a little bit more on that as well. So plenty of room, plenty of meat you can do at once, feed a lot of people, and a lot less expensive. We're about 40 minutes in and doing pretty well. These are small pieces of meat, so they won't take very long. They're already up to 140 degrees. The grill's about 175 to 180. Depends on who you ask. Some people like to smoke at 200, some people like to smoke at 220. Especially for small cuts of meat, I think 175 is fine. And obviously we're only about 20 degrees away from them being finished, so we'll keep an eye on them. Alright, so an update. The temperature stalled out on the meat, which happens sometimes cooking at lower temperatures. So I opened all the vents, cranked it up to 220. The meat hit 160, and now we're going to take a look. We're going to pull them off. Oh my god, they look amazing. I'm going to get them on a plate, get them inside, and we'll take a taste.